Aquarius! Welcome to Mary's Angel Tarot. This is a general reading for Aquarius Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. Okay, Aquarius, let's start it. You still flinch when you hear their name. Maybe not visibly, maybe not in a way that anyone else would notice, but something inside you contracts. A muscle you didn't know you had tightens somewhere between your ribs and your throat, and for a fraction of a second, the world tilts slightly on its axis and you're back there, back in the moment it happened. Back in the exact emotional coordinates of the day your heart learned what it means to be handed back to you by someone you thought would hold it forever. You've done so much work since then. You've rebuilt so much. You've reconstructed an entire life on the foundation of what was left after they walked through it like a storm and moved on to clearer skies. And from the outside, the reconstruction looks complete. The walls are up, the lights are on, you appear whole. But you and I both know that there's a room in the rebuilt house that you never finished. A room you sealed off and stopped entering because what's inside it is too tender, too loaded, too saturated with a specific quality of pain that doesn't respond to time the way people promised it would. They told you time heals everything. They were wrong. Time doesn't heal, time buries. And what was buried is still alive down there, breathing in the dark, waiting for exactly this moment to be unearthed. Because this person is coming back, and they're not coming back casually. They're not sliding into your messages with a hey, or showing up at the periphery of your life with some breezy, non-committal energy designed to test the waters without risking anything. They're coming back on their knees. Spiritually, emotionally, and in every way that matters, they are approaching you from a position of total surrender. With an apology that has been building inside them for so long that it's changed the shape of their interior, with words they've practiced and discarded and practiced again because no version feels adequate. And underneath the apology, beneath it, fueling it, giving it a weight and a desperateness that they cannot disguise, no matter how carefully they choose their words, is something that's going to shake the ground you've so carefully rebuilt your life on. They're going to tell you they love you, not loved, love, present tense, active, alive, ongoing, a feeling that didn't end when they ended things. A feeling that has been running underneath their life like an underground river this entire time, invisible on the surface, but shaping the terrain above it in ways that neither of you could see until now. But before I talk about their return, I need to talk about what they did to you, because I think it's been minimized by them, by the people around you, maybe even by you yourself in the interest of moving on and being the bigger person and not giving the wound more power than it deserves. But the wound deserves acknowledgement, not to keep it open, to honor what you survived, because what happened to you was not a minor disappointment. It was not a normal breakup or a standard rejection or one of those unfortunate but ordinary relationship endings that people navigate every day and recover from on schedule. What happened to you was a specific kind of devastation that targets the deepest layer of a person's self-worth and detonates there in the place where you store your belief that you are lovable, that you are worthy of someone's choice, that the love you offer is valuable enough to be received and protected and chosen again and again, even when choosing is hard. They detonated that belief. And the explosion didn't just damage the relationship, it damaged your relationship with yourself. Because when someone you love rejects you, when someone who has seen you at your most open and your most vulnerable looks at all of that and decides it's not enough, or it's not what they want, or it's not worth the effort, the rejection doesn't land on the surface. It bypasses every defense you have and goes straight to the core, to the place where you keep the foundational assumptions about your own worth, and it rewrites them, not loudly, quietly, surgically, so that afterward you're walking around with a revised operating system that you didn't install and didn't consent to, an operating system that says things like, see, I told you, I knew this would happen. I knew that who I am isn't enough to make someone stay. And you've been running on that operating system ever since. You've been making decisions based on it, choosing partners based on it, holding back based on it. Loving at 70% instead of 100 because the last time you loved at 100, you got demolished and your system decided that the safest strategy was to never go all in again, to always keep something in reserve, to always maintain an emergency exit, to always love with one hand while the other hand grips the door frame, ready to catch yourself when the floor inevitably drops out. You've been calling that wisdom, calling it growth, calling it learning from your mistakes. But it's not wisdom, it's armor forged from wound. And the wound was inflicted by one specific person who is now, at this very moment, being crushed by the full, delayed, devastating weight of what they did. Let me tell you what happened to them. Because their story since the rejection is not the story you've been imagining. The narrative you've constructed, the one that helped you survive, is that they left and they were fine, that they moved on easily, that the thing that nearly destroyed you was, for them, a minor course correction, a brief discomfort, followed by relief, and then the resumption of a life that didn't particularly need you in it. That narrative was necessary. I understand why you built it, because the alternative, the idea that they left and also suffered, that they made this choice and immediately began drowning in the consequences of it, that possibility was too confusing and too painful to hold alongside your own devastation. If they suffered too, then the whole thing was pointless. If they suffered too, then why did they do it? The narrative of their indifference gave the rejection a logic, however cruel, that your mind could process. They left because they didn't care enough. Clean, simple, terrible, but at least coherent. The truth is not coherent. The truth is messy and contradictory and deeply, profoundly human in all the ways that make human behavior so maddening. The truth is that this person left you and was not fine, was never fine, was performing fine with such commitment and consistency that everyone around them, including you, bought the performance completely. But behind the curtain, behind the carefully maintained facade of someone who had made a clean break and moved on with their life, there was chaos. There was a person lying awake at 3 a.m. with your absence pressing on their chest like a physical weight. There was a person reaching for their phone to call you and then setting it down, and then reaching for it again, and then setting it down again. A cycle that repeated so many times it became a kind of ritual, a private liturgy of longing and cowardice performed nightly in the dark. They tried to replace you. I want to be honest about that because I think you deserve the full picture, and the full picture includes the parts that sting. They tried other people, other connections, other versions of the intimacy they walked away from. And every single attempt failed. Not dramatically, not in ways that made good stories or provided clear lessons. They failed in the quiet, devastating way that things fail when they're being compared to something incomparable. Every new person was measured against you. And every new person came up short, and the shortfall wasn't in their looks or their personality or their compatibility on paper. The shortfall was in the feeling. The specific, irreplicable, only happens once feeling that this person had with you and has never been able to find with anyone else. They kept looking for your frequency in other people's signals and finding static every time, without exception. Until the searching itself became a kind of mourning, each failed attempt a fresh reminder that what they had with you was not ordinary and could not be reconstructed with different materials. There's a particular moment that haunts them, And I want to describe it because I think it reveals something essential about the nature of their regret. It's not a dramatic moment. It's not the moment of the breakup or the rejection itself. It's a moment from before, a moment from the time when things were still good, still intact, still wrapped in the particular warmth that your connection generated when it was functioning at its best. A small moment, the kind that seems insignificant when it's happening but takes on enormous weight in retrospect. Maybe it was the way you looked at them across a room. Maybe it was something you said, something tender and unguarded, something that revealed the depth of your feeling in a way that should have made them grateful, but at the time made them feel something more complicated, something closer to fear. Maybe it was the way you reached for them in the night, instinctively, unconsciously, your sleeping body seeking theirs, with an animal certainty that didn't need to be awake to know what it wanted. That moment plays on a loop in their memory. It has become the centerpiece of their regret museum, the exhibit they return to most frequently, the one they stand in front of with their hands at their sides and their throat tight, thinking, I had this. This existed. This was real. And it was mine, and I held it in my hands, and I opened my hands and let it fall. And the cruelty of the memory is that it's beautiful. It would be easier if the haunting memory were a fight or a disappointment or evidence that things were already falling apart. But the memory is beautiful. It's evidence of something that was working. Something that was alive and warm and worth protecting. And they didn't protect it. They let it go. And now the beauty of the memory is the very thing that makes it unbearable. Because beauty that you destroyed by choice is a different kind of loss than beauty that was taken from you by circumstance. Circumstance you can grieve. Choice you have to own. And the owning is eating them alive. I need to talk about the apology because the apology is coming, and it's important that you understand what it is and what it isn't before it arrives. This apology is not a performance. It's not a strategic move designed to get you back. It's not the product of loneliness or desperation or the simple, selfish realization that being alone is harder than they thought, and maybe returning to the person they hurt is easier than doing the work of building something new. I know that's the interpretation your defense system will reach for first. It's the safest interpretation. It protects you from having to take the apology seriously. It allows you to dismiss it as manipulation, file it under too little too late, and continue walking forward without having to turn around and face the person standing behind you with their heart in their hands. But this apology is not that. This apology has been forged in a fire that has been burning inside this person for a very long time. And what the fire has burned away is everything that isn't true. The excuses are gone, the justifications are gone, the elaborate narrative they constructed to explain to themselves why leaving was the right choice, the mature choice, the necessary choice. That narrative has been incinerated by the slow, relentless heat of a truth they could no longer outrun, which is that they didn't leave because it was the right thing to do. They left because they were afraid of the depth of what they felt, afraid of the vulnerability that your love demanded, afraid of being seen as completely and as tenderly as you were seeing them, afraid, paradoxically, of getting exactly what they wanted, because getting what you want means you have something to lose, and this person had already decided long before they met you that loss was something they could not survive again. That's the wound beneath the wound, the original injury that predates you entirely. Somewhere in this person's history, probably early, probably in the formative years when the architecture of attachment was being built, they learned that love is a precursor to devastation. that the people you need most are the people most likely to leave, that opening your heart fully is equivalent to handing someone a weapon and turning your back. And they carried that lesson into their connection with you. And for a while, the connection was strong enough to override it. For a while, what they felt for you was louder than what they feared. But then the connection deepened. And the deeper it got, the louder the fear became. Until one day, the fear was louder than the love, and they did the thing that their wiring told them to do. They left before they could be left. They rejected before they could be rejected. They preemptively destroyed the best thing in their life because their nervous system was convinced that its destruction was inevitable, and the only variable was whether they'd be the one holding the match or the one watching it burn. They chose to hold the match, and they have been burning ever since. The apology that's coming carries all of this in it, not as an excuse, as context. They're not going to say, I was scared, and expect that to be sufficient. They know it's not sufficient. They know that understanding why someone hurt you doesn't undo the hurt. They know that the most articulate explanation in the world doesn't unbruise the places that were bruised. What they're offering is not an explanation in lieu of accountability. It's an explanation alongside accountability. They are coming to you prepared to say, I did this, I chose this, I was wrong. Not I made a mistake, which implies accident. I was wrong, which implies agency. They are claiming full, unmitigated, undiluted ownership of a choice that they now recognize as the worst one they have ever made. And the ownership is not comfortable, and it's not elegant, and it's not going to be delivered with the smooth composure of someone who has processed their guilt and emerged neatly on the other side. It's going to be delivered with the raw, ragged energy of someone who is still in the middle of it, still burning, still sitting in the ashes of what they destroyed, turning the charred remains over in their hands, marveling at how something so precious could have been reduced to this by their own cowardice. And then comes the other part. The part that goes beyond apology into territory that neither of you has occupied before. The I love you. And this I love you is not a relic. It's not a nostalgic echo of a feeling that used to exist. It's a living, current, present tense declaration that is going to cost them everything they have left in terms of pride and self-protection and the carefully maintained illusion that they're fine without you. Because saying I love you to someone you rejected is not just an admission of feeling. It's an admission of error so total that it restructures your entire self-concept. It's saying I had the most important thing and I threw it away, and I've spent all this time pretending that was a reasonable decision, and it wasn't. It was the decision of a frightened person, and I'm still frightened, but I'm more frightened now of living the rest of my life without telling you that you are the single most significant thing that has ever happened to me. That's the weight of what's coming. And I don't say that to romanticize them or to position them as some kind of tragic hero. They're not a hero. They're a person who made a devastating choice and is now trying to gather the fragments. What makes this significant is not their pain, because their pain, while real, does not erase or outweigh yours. What makes this significant is the genuineness of the transformation, because this person has changed. Not in the superficial, I've been to therapy and now I use feeling words way that sometimes passes for growth. In the tectonic way. In the way that only happens when someone's entire belief system has been dismantled by the consequences of its own logic. They believed that leaving would protect them. It didn't. They believed that distance would diminish the feeling. It didn't. They believed that time would do what their willpower couldn't and gradually dissolve the bond. It didn't. Every assumption they held about love and self-preservation and the mathematics of emotional survival has been disproven by their lived experience. And what's left in the wake of all those failed assumptions is a person who has been stripped down to the studs. No theories, no strategies, no protective frameworks. Just a human being standing in the rubble of their own defenses, finally willing to do the one thing they've never done, which is love without a safety net. I want to turn to you now because this is not just their story. This is yours. And your part of it is at least as complex and at least as important as theirs. Because you have to decide what to do with what's coming. And that decision is not going to be simple. It's not going to be a clean binary choice between forgiveness and refusal. It's going to be a layered, multi-dimensional reckoning with everything you felt and everything you've become since they left and everything you still carry that you haven't fully examined, because examining it meant going back into the room you sealed off, the room in the rebuilt house that you stopped entering because the pain in it was too specific and too alive. Here's what I want to say about that room. It's time to go back in. Not because they're coming back and you need to prepare, because you need what's in there regardless of what you decide about them. In that room are pieces of yourself that you abandoned along with the relationship. Not intentionally, reflexively. In the aftermath of the rejection, your psyche performed a kind of emergency surgery, cutting away everything associated with the pain, and some of what it cut away was actually healthy tissue. Parts of your capacity to trust, parts of your willingness to be fully seen, parts of your belief in the possibility of love that doesn't come with conditions or expiration dates. Those parts got sealed in the room along with the pain, and you've been living without them, functioning but incomplete, capable of connection but not the kind of connection that reaches all the way down. You've been loving from the neck up, intellectually, safely, with the deeper chambers of your heart locked and the key thrown into the room you won't enter. The approach of this person's apology is the universe's way of handing you back the key. Not so that you can unlock the door for them, so that you can unlock it for yourself, so that you can walk back into the place where your full capacity for love is stored and reclaim it. What you do with that reclaimed capacity, whether you direct it toward this person or toward someone entirely new or toward yourself in a way that doesn't involve romance at all, that's your choice. But the reclamation needs to happen regardless. Because you've been living at reduced capacity and the reduction was understandable and it was protective and it was necessary for a time, but the time is over. And the cost of continued reduction is becoming higher than the cost of reopening the room. There's a question living in you that you haven't asked out loud because asking it feels dangerous. The question is, what if they hurt me again? And underneath that question is a deeper one. Can I survive it a second time? And underneath that is the deepest one of all. Am I stupid for even considering this? That last question, the one about stupidity, is the one that I want to address most directly, because it's the one doing the most damage. You are not stupid for still having feelings for someone who hurt you. You are not naive for being open to the possibility that people can change. You are not weak for wanting what you wanted before the rejection taught you to want less. The impulse to reconnect with someone who broke your heart is not a character flaw. It's a signal. It's information about the depth of the original connection and the resilience of a bond that survived its own apparent destruction. Whether you act on that signal or not is a separate question entirely. But the signal itself is not evidence of weakness. It's evidence of a heart that still functions at full depth even after being given every reason to shallow out. Now let me tell you something about the way this apology is going to arrive, because the energy around the delivery is very specific. It's not going to come when you expect it. It's going to come in a moment of unguardedness, a moment when you're not thinking about them, not braced for contact, not wearing the emotional armor you've learned to put on whenever the possibility of their reappearance crosses your mind. You're going to be caught in one of those rare moments of genuine openness, the kind that only happen when your defenses take a coffee break, when the sentry at the gate of your heart steps away for just a second, and in that second, this person's energy is going to walk right through. It might be a message, it might be a phone call, it might be a physical appearance at a place you didn't expect to see them. But the delivery method matters less than the state you're in when you receive it. And the state is going to be open, accidentally, uncharacteristically, almost comically open, as though the universe specifically chose the one moment in your week when your walls were at their lowest to deliver the one message that requires you to be unwalled. That's not a coincidence. That's precision. The universe understands that if this apology arrived while you were armored, your defenses would intercept it, process it through the filter of your protective skepticism, and deliver a prepackaged verdict of too late or I don't trust this before the words even had a chance to land on unprotected skin. So the universe is engineering a moment of exposure, a crack in the schedule of your own guardedness. And through that crack, the truth is going to enter. What this person says to you is going to be imperfect. I want to prepare you for that because I think there's a fantasy version of this moment that you've been unconsciously harboring, a version where they say exactly the right thing in exactly the right way, and the words are so perfectly calibrated that they dissolve all your resistance and heal all your wounds in a single conversation. That's not how it's going to go. The words are going to stumble. The sentences are going to come out in the wrong order. They're going to start with something that sounds rehearsed and then abandon the rehearsal halfway through because the real emotion behind it is too large and too unwieldy to be contained in prepared speech. They're going to say something awkward. They're going to say something that doesn't quite hit the mark. They might even say something that inadvertently hurts, not because they're careless, but because the territory they're navigating is so emotionally dense that every step risks a detonation. And in the middle of all that imperfection, in the mess and the stumbling and the wrong-ordered sentences and the visible trembling of a person who is doing the hardest thing they've ever done, you're going to see something you haven't seen before. Authenticity, the kind that can't be manufactured. The kind that only exists when every other option has been exhausted and the only thing left is the raw, unprocessed, terrifyingly naked truth. They're going to stop trying to say it right and just say it real. And the real version, the version without polish, without strategy, without the safety net of carefully chosen words, that version is going to reach places in you that the perfect version never could. Because your heart doesn't respond to perfection. Your heart responds to honesty. And what this person is bringing you is the most honest thing they've ever produced. I want to talk about the I love you specifically because it sits at the center of everything and it's going to carry a particular energy that distinguishes it from every other I love you you've ever received, including the ones this same person may have said before. When they said it before, if they said it, it was spoken from inside the relationship, from inside the safety of mutual commitment, from a place where the words were supported by the structure of coupledom and confirmed by the daily evidence of shared existence. It was real then too, but it was easy. Saying I love you to someone who's already yours, someone who's already said it back, someone who's sleeping next to you and sharing your life and building a future with you, that doesn't require courage. It requires honesty, yes, but not courage. This time is different. This time they're saying, I love you from the outside, from the place they put themselves when they walked away, from the cold side of the door they closed with their own hands. They're saying it with no structure to support it, no relationship to validate it, no guarantee of reciprocation to cushion the fall if the words land on silence. They're saying, I love you into the void they created, knowing that the void might swallow the words and give nothing back. And that willingness to declare love into a space that they themselves emptied, that is courage. Real, terrible, throat-closing, handshaking courage of the kind that can only emerge when a person has been broken down so completely by their own choices that they have nothing left to lose except the truth. And holding the truth one more day feels more dangerous than speaking it. The I love you is also going to carry something else that I think will catch you off guard: specificity. They're not going to say I love you in the abstract, generalized, I love who you are as a person way. They're going to say it with details, with evidence, with the accumulated observations of someone who has spent a long, lonely time cataloging every specific thing about you that they miss, that they took for granted, that they didn't appreciate in real time, but now replay with the exquisite attention of someone watching the last sunset they'll ever see. They're going to tell you what they love, the specific things, the particular qualities, the small, seemingly insignificant details of your existence that have become sacred to them in your absence. And the specificity is going to undo you. Because being loved in the abstract is easy to dismiss. Being loved in the specific, being told, I love the way you do this, I love the way you say that, I love the particular expression your face makes when you're thinking and you don't know anyone's watching. That kind of love cannot be dismissed. It can only be received or rejected. And receiving it is going to require you to open the room. There's something I need to address about the timing of this, because I think it's significant in a way that goes beyond logistics. This person is returning now in this specific window because they've reached a threshold, not a positive threshold, a desperate one. Something has happened in their life recently, or is about to happen, that has confronted them with their own mortality. Not necessarily in a dramatic health crisis way, but in the existential way. The confrontation with the fact that time is limited, that the years they've spent running from the truth of what they feel are years they will never get back. That every day that passes without you knowing what you mean to them is a day wasted, and the waste has accumulated to a point where it has become its own emergency. They're not coming back because they've arrived at some Zen-like place of readiness. They're coming back because the pain of staying away has finally exceeded the pain of coming forward. The math has flipped. And when the math flips, action follows. Not with the grace of someone who has it all figured out, but with the urgent, stumbling energy of someone who is running out of reasons to keep standing still. I want to talk now about what happens after the apology, after the I love you, after the words have landed and the dust has settled and you're standing there in the unguarded moment that the universe orchestrated, looking at this person who destroyed you and who is now standing in front of you, offering everything they once refused to give. What happens next is not a decision you need to make immediately. I want to be very clear about that because I can feel the pressure already building in your energy, the sense that this moment demands an instant response, that you need to either fall into their arms or slam the door in their face that anything less than a definitive answer is somehow inadequate. You don't owe them an answer in the moment. You owe yourself time. Time to feel the full weight of what they said. Time to let it move through your body without the interference of your analytical mind. Time to sit in the complicated, contradictory, multi-directional, emotional reality of being apologized to by someone you loved and lost and grieved and rebuilt your life without. That emotional reality doesn't resolve in a conversation. It resolves over days, maybe weeks. It resolves in the quiet moments when you're alone with yourself and you can finally hear what your own heart is saying without the noise of their presence or the pressure of their expectation drowning it out. What I can tell you is that whatever you decide, you deserve to decide it from a place of fullness rather than deficiency, not from the wound, not from the loneliness that the wound created. Not from the operating system that the rejection installed, the one that tells you you're not lovable enough to be chosen, because if you decide from that place, you're not deciding at all. You're reacting. And reactions, however justified, are not the same as choices. A choice comes from the you that exists beneath the wound. The you that was there before the rejection, before the heartbreak, before the operating system was overwritten. The you that knows in its deepest, most uncorrupted layer exactly what it deserves and exactly what it wants and exactly how much risk it's willing to take in the name of something real. That's the you I want you to consult. Not your fear, not your pride, not the reasonable self-protective part that has kept you functional since the breakup by constructing a worldview in which you don't need them and never did. That part was essential. It kept you alive. But it's not equipped to make this decision because it has a bias. Its bias is towards safety at all costs. And some decisions, the most important ones, the ones that determine the trajectory of an entire life, cannot be made from safety. They have to be made from that terrifying, exhilarating, stomach-dropping place where safety ends and faith begins. I'm not telling you to take them back. I'm not telling you to refuse them. I'm telling you to go back into the room. The sealed room in the rebuilt house. The room you stopped entering because the pain was too alive. Go back in, open the door, step inside, and look at what's there, not with the eyes of the person who sealed it in a state of emergency. With the eyes of the person you are now, older, stronger, more scarred but also more wise. The contents of that room look different from this distance. The pain is still there, but it's not the only thing. Your capacity for love is in there too. Your willingness to believe in people. Your ability to hold complexity and contradiction and the full mess of human imperfection without needing to reduce it to a simple story with clear heroes and villains. All of that is in the room, and all of it is yours. This message reaching you through Mary's Angel Tarot is not telling you what to choose. It's telling you that a choice is coming and that you should meet it with your full self, not the reduced version. Not the armored version, not the version that decided in the aftermath of devastation that feeling less was safer than feeling everything. You deserve to feel everything. The anger and the tenderness, the betrayal and the hope, the very reasonable desire to protect yourself and the very unreasonable but very real desire to believe that this time, the love is strong enough to survive what the fear tried to kill. There's one more thing I want to say, and it might be the most important thing in this entire message. Regardless of what you decide about this person, regardless of whether you accept the apology or reject it or table it or let it sit on the counter while you figure out what to do with it, there is something you need to hear that has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. You were never the problem. The rejection was never evidence of your insufficiency. The heartbreak was never proof that you loved wrong or loved too much or offered something that wasn't worth keeping. What you gave was extraordinary. The love you poured into that connection was one of the purest things that has ever existed in this person's life. And the fact that they couldn't hold it at the time was a reflection of their limitations, not your value. You were not too much. You were not too intense. You were not too available or too emotional or too invested. You were exactly what love is supposed to look like when it's genuine. And the only reason it wasn't received properly was that the person receiving it hadn't yet developed the capacity to hold something that real. They're developing that capacity now, painfully, belatedly, at a cost that they will be paying for a long time. But the development of their capacity does not retroactively validate your worth. Your worth was never in question. Your worth was established the moment you loved with your whole heart and continued to love, even when the love was not returned in kind. Your worth was demonstrated in the way you survived a heartbreak without becoming cruel, in the way you rebuilt without becoming closed, in the way you maintained, against all evidence and all instinct, a tiny, stubborn, almost defiant thread of openness in a heart that had every reason to shut down permanently. That thread of openness is why this message found you. It's why you're still here. It's why the universe is delivering this information to you now, at this exact point in your journey, through a channel that your guarded mind might not fully trust, but that your soul recognizes as real. The thread held through all of it, the rejection, the grief, the rebuilding, the armor, the sealed room, the reduced capacity, the midnight ache that still visits sometimes when you're too tired to defend against it. Through all of it, the thread held. And it's that thread, that impossibly thin, impossibly strong filament of willingness to remain open to love even after being devastated by it, that is about to be rewarded. Not with a guaranteed happy ending. The universe doesn't deal in guarantees. But with an opportunity to stand in the full truth of a moment that contains both heartbreak and hope, both memory and possibility, both the person who hurt you and the person they're becoming, and to choose from the deepest, most uncorrupted, most courageous part of yourself what happens next. The apology is coming. The I love you is coming. The ring, whether literal or metaphorical, the symbol of someone's willingness to commit everything they have to the correction of their greatest mistake. That is coming too. And when it arrives, you will be ready. Not because you've planned for it, not because you've rehearsed your response, but because you, the real you, the full you, the you that survives everything and remains open despite everything, that you has been ready all along, waiting in the sealed room, breathing in the dark, holding the thread. It's time to open the door. All right. Thank you so much for watching Mary's Angel Tarot. Take care of your energy, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye.